Hello guys, welcome to AWS Course. This is Tahir, your instructor. In this session, we'll be learning about the Virtual Private Cloud, the VPC. Okay. Virtual Private Cloud is nothing but it is an isolated network created in the AWS data center. Okay. This Virtual Private Cloud enables us to launch AWS resources. Okay. It will be creating a virtual network that will be defined for us. It will be an isolated network, virtual network defined for us. In that we can launch our resources. Okay. So this virtual private cloud resembles like a traditional network, but it will be virtual. Okay. And this complete virtual private cloud in this VPC, we can operate our own data center within that. Okay, and it is used for scalable infrastructure of the AWS. That means that within the AWS architecture, we will be creating a virtual network. In this virtual network, we can create like a virtual data center. Okay, so in this virtual network, we can then create or launch our resources, and we can scale them up or down based on the requirement. Okay, so if you see here, this will be the virtual network. Okay, for every region we can have a virtual private cloud. Okay, that is a virtual network. Now within that, we will be having different availability zones. So each availability zone, we can have multiple subnets. Okay, we can have a public subnet or private subnet. Okay, and the virtual private cloud will be connected to the internet gateway that will give access to the internet. So we'll see them. What are the different components? So a subnet is nothing but a subsection of the network which is created in a single availability zone. Within the VPC, we will be creating a subsection of the network. This subsection is the subnet. Okay. Then we have the internet gateway. Internet gateway is nothing but it is the gateway for connecting the VPC to the internet. So using the internet gateway, we can connect to the internet. Okay. Without the internet gateway, the complete network will be private. Okay. Now route tables determines where the network traffic from the subnet is directed. Okay. So these route tables will be having the rules, or we can say the routes that will be directing the traffic, that specifies where the subnets network will be directed. Now NACL stands for Network Access Control List. These are nothing but subnet level firewall to control the flow of traffic in and out of the subnet. Now NAT gateway. NAT gateway is a gateway that provides internet access to the AWS resources in a private subnet. Private subnet does not have access to the internet. So the AWS resources launched within the private subnet will not have the access to the internet. So in order to get the access to internet, we use the NAT gateway. Now, a CIDR notation. CIDR is nothing but classless interdomain routing notation. It is the way of representing an IP address and its network mask. Okay, so it specifies the network mask and the host IPs. So this way it specifies it will indirectly represent how many IP addresses or how many nodes can be connected within this VPC or network. So a CIDR notation has the format. It has four groups. Each group has 1 to 3 digits. Okay, maximum it will have 3 digits. So the values can be starting from 0 to 255, and these each four groups are separated by a period. Okay, at the end there will be a slash and a number. That number will be from 0 to 32. Like for example, 10.0.0.0/16. Okay, so this specifies the number of IP addresses that can be assigned in this VPC. So whenever we'll be launching a VPC, we should definitely provide the CIDR notation. This CIDR notation specifies the network mask and the host mask. Okay, so the allowed CIDR block size in the AWS VPC is between /16 net mask. That is, it will be having 65,536 IP addresses, and the least is /28 net mask, which is 16 IP addresses. Okay. So when I give the example 10.0.0.0/16, it specifies that the VPC network will be having the IP addresses in the range or in the block starting from 10.0.0.0, and 16 means it is going to specify that the first two group, okay, as I mentioned, there are four groups. The first two groups belong to the network mask. It specifies the network ID, okay, and the last two groups specifies the host ID, okay. It is going to specify the host ID. So when it says /16, that means this network can have 65,536 nodes connected or IP addresses assigned in this network. Okay. Now, a VPC subnet, it is nothing but the subsection of the network, which is created in a availability zone. So these subnet will be having the instances. So when we will be launching an instance, we will be launching the instances in the subnet. We will be launching the instances in the subnet. So the VPC spans throughout the region, all the availability zones in the region. So when we create a VPC, it is a region specific. So it will be spanning all the availability zones in the region. But the subnet spans only a single availability zone. So the subnet that we create, it will be within an availability zone. And we cannot create a subnet with multiple availability zones. Okay. So within an availability zone, we can create multiple subnets. So here what we can do is that we can create a public subnet and a private subnet. A public subnet will have access to the internet directly. A private subnet does not have access to the internet directly. Okay. Next is a route table. A route table is nothing but a set of rules. These set of rules are called as routes, and they determine the flow of the traffic, the network traffic, the flow of the network traffic. So by default, when we create a VPC, a main route table will be created. Okay. For example, if I am creating a VPC with 10.0.0.0/16, then a main route table will be created with the rule specifying that 10.0.0.0/16 and target is local. That means all the traffic will be diverted only to the VPC, within the VPC. Okay. Now, if I create a internet gateway which provides access to the internet, okay, the VPC will get access to internet using the internet gateway. So in my route table, if I add something like this 0.0.0.0/0 and I give the target as internet gateway, that means that my network traffic is directed towards the internet gateway, which will give connection to the internet, that is outside world. Okay. And we can create our own private route tables as well based on our requirement. Internet gateway, it is nothing but a horizontally scaled, redundant and highly available VPC component that will allow communication between VPC and internet. Okay, so this virtual component that is created in the VPC, this allows the communication between the VPC and the internet. Okay, and this internet gateway enables the resources, especially in the public subnet, to get connected to the instance, to get connected to the internet. Okay, so if these resources within the public subnet, definitely they will be having a public IP address. Using that public IP address, they will be getting connected to the internet. Okay. Now, internet gateways provide a target in the VPC route tables for internet routable traffic. So, what I mentioned here, see here, IGWID, it is nothing but internet gateway ID. So, if I give here like this, then the internet, subnets that are associated with the route table explicitly, then they are they will be having access to the internet gateway, that is the internet. Okay. Now, NACL. NACL stands for Network Access Control List. Okay. This is an optional layer of security. It is nothing but the firewall, a subnet level firewall that will be controlling the traffic in and out of one or more subnets. Okay. So, by default, a network access control list NACL is created and it will be associated with all the subnets. Okay. So, these NACL subnets, is the this NACL is subnet level of firewall security, and these NACL are the stateless. That means that we need to explicitly give the rules for the incoming traffic and the outgoing traffic. Not unlike the security groups which are stateful, wherein the network traffic, that is by default the outgoing traffic is allowed to all type of traffic, but incoming traffic, inbound traffic is denied. So we need to add the rules for the incoming traffic. But here when we create a network access control list, that is NACL, by default the inbound and outbound traffic will be denied. We need to explicitly add the rules for inbound and outbound traffic. Now, next is the NAT gateway. NAT gateway is Network Address Translation Gateway. Okay, it is going to translate the network address. In this way, what happens is actually that, like I said earlier, we can have a public subnet which will be associated with the, or it will be redirected to the internet gateway to get internet access, but the private subnet will not be redirected to the internet gateway, so it will not have access to the internet. So the resources that are launched within the private subnet, they do not have access to the internet. So in order to get access to the internet, we will be using this NAT gateway. So this NAT gateway will be created in the public subnet, and in the route table for the private subnet, we will be directing it to the NAT gateway. So this NAT gateway will be having access to the internet. So from the internet gateway. So indirectly, the private subnet resources will get access to internet. Okay. So that's it for the theory part. In the next session, we are going to see the practical. We are going to launch or create our custom VPC. Okay. Thanks for joining the course. See you in the next course. Thanks for joining the session. See you in the next session. Have a nice day.